Hi everyone and welcome to the first lesson for National 5 Biology. We're going to be starting off with Unit 1, Key Area 1, and that's cell structure. So the learning outcomes for today's lesson are now on your screen. So we're starting off with cell ultrastructure and functions. Okay, so we've then got a long list of the different organelles we'll find inside of our different cell types. And if you recognise some of those words, that's great. If you're not familiar with them yet, that's fine. We're going to go into them in more detail. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at plant and animal cells specifically. Part B of the learning outcomes is that the cell wall is made of cellulose in plant cells, but of different materials in fungal and bacteria cells. So to start off with, I just want to say to begin that the icon up in the top left corner of the slide, the little notepad and pencil, if you see that on any future slides, including this one, that basically means that the information on this slide is important and I would want you to remember it. So that would maybe signal for you to take some sort of note of the information that's on the slide, some way for you to remember that information. An organelle is a structure within a cell. So the way that I like to remember it is that cells basically have small structures inside them that perform specific jobs, kind of like the organs in your body. So you've got an organ, and then the L is for cell. So a cell's organ is an organelle. So just like the organs inside your body, you have the brain that controls everything in your body basically. It controls your memories, your thoughts, it tells the other parts of your body what to do, it processes information. You have your heart that pumps blood around your body. You have your lungs that helps you breathe in oxygen, get the oxygen into your bloodstream, and then breathe out carbon dioxide. These are all structures inside your body that all have specific jobs that they need to do. An organelle is just like that. It's a specific structure within a cell that has a specific job. And then together, all of the organelles inside of a cell are called its ultrastructure. So ultra basically just meaning all, the full structure. So all of those structures, all of those organelles together gives you the ultrastructure. So the first cell that we're going to go over is the animal cell. And we have 5 different organelles that we need to remember within our animal cell. The first one here is pointing to this dot right in the middle, this big circle in the middle, and that is our nucleus. Now the nucleus is kind of like the brain of the cell. It controls cell activities. It tells all of the other organelles what they need to do. And it also stores genetic information, so DNA is found within the nucleus. The second arrow is pointing to the cell membrane. Now the cell membrane is kind of like the fence on the outside of the cell, okay? So it surrounds the cell, but it also has gates in it. So there's lots of gates dispersed around this fence, and they can open or they can close, and they can let certain things into and out of the cell, depending on their size. So they can either fit through the gate and enter and exit the cell, or they can't. So the cell membrane controls what enters and exits the cell. Now number 3, down the bottom, we have the cytoplasm. And the cytoplasm is the site of, so cyto, remember it as site of, the site of chemical reactions. So all of the reactions within your cells happen either in the cytoplasm or in something that is floating about in the cytoplasm, like the next 2 organelles that we're about to go on to. So number 4 here is called the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is your site of aerobic respiration. Now that is a reaction that happens inside of all cells that helps them produce energy that they need to do to perform all of their other functions. So just like you need energy to be able to get up and out of your bed in the morning, to be able to go to school, to be able to do your work, all of the cells in your body need energy as well. And they get that through the process of respiration. And that happens inside of the mitochondria, which is floating about in your cytoplasm. And then finally, number 4 is pointing to the ribosome. So your ribosomes are the little dots that are floating about in the cytoplasm. And they are the site of protein synthesis. Okay, so we'll come over to these reactions later on in the unit. Aerobic respiration, protein synthesis. They're important cellular reactions that are necessary for that cell to stay alive. They're very vital reactions, and protein synthesis happens inside of your ribosome, and they can be found floating about in the cytoplasm, or as we'll see in another lesson, they can also be found in a different place where they're basically attached to something else that's also floating in the cytoplasm, but I'll show you another example of that in a later lesson. And then on to plant cells. So plant cells have a lot in common with animal cells. So some of the organelles that we've seen in an animal cell, all of the organelles actually in an animal cell, are also found in a plant cell. Plant cells just happen to have extra. So this is the big circle that's sitting roughly in the middle of the cell, and that is our nucleus. The brain of the cell that is controlling cell activities and containing DNA. Now number 2 is the chloroplast. So the chloroplasts are only found inside of plant cells. So out of the 4 types that we'll eventually cover, only plant cells have chloroplasts. And these are the site of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is the process by which plants make their food. They're not able to go out and go to the shop like we are. They have to make their own food by a cellular process, by a reaction, a chemical reaction, and that is called photosynthesis. And again, that happens inside of the chloroplasts. Your chloroplasts are actually green in colour, like they're shown in the diagram. And that is actually what makes plants green. So the green parts of plants, like your stems or your leaves, they are filled with chloroplasts, and that's what gives them their green colour. Number 3 is pointing to the cell membrane again. So this was one that was also in our animal cell. Again, the cell membrane controls what can enter and exit the cell. Number 4 is another line that is on the outside. So we have the cell membrane on the inside and then the cell wall on the outside. And just like a wall in a building, it is there to provide structure, shape, and support to your plant cell. And again, like the walls in the building, walls are also found on the outside. So the cell wall is found on the outside of the cell. Number 5 is pointing to the mitochondria again. So this was one that was also in our animal cell. And again, it is the site of aerobic respiration. Number 6 is a new one, and that is our vacuole. So the vacuole found in plant cells contains cell sap. So if you've ever had maple syrup, what that actually is the cell sap from a maple tree. Cell sap is a sort of sugary liquid, and it is stored inside of the vacuole. And because of that, because the vacuole is filled up with cell sap, it actually helps to maintain the shape of the plant cell. Number 7, we have the cytoplasm again, the site of chemical reactions. And then number 8 is the ribosome. And then finally, to summarise everything, we have the nucleus, which controls cell activities, the cytoplasm, which is the site of chemical reactions, the cell membrane, which controls the entry and exit of materials in and out of the cell, your mitochondria is the site of aerobic respiration, the ribosomes are the site of protein synthesis, the cell wall provides stability and support to the cell, and the cell wall is made of cellulose in plants. Okay, that's an important point that I would want you to remember. It's made of cellulose in plants. The vacuole maintains cell shape and contains cell sap, and the chloroplast is the site of photosynthesis. Okay everyone, that is the end of this lesson. We have covered animal cells and plant cells, and in the next lesson we're going to be covering bacteria and fungal cells. I hope that this lesson has helped you whether you're learning or revising, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye everyone.